Hey BookTube, Chelsea's Reads here. It's been another week of isolation. Yay! This week I actually didn't read as much, but I actually got a unexpectedly large haul. To be fair, 2 of these books came from last week, or 3 of them maybe came from last week. I don't know. The days are all blurring together at this point. But I chose not to show them because I knew more were coming. So we're going to start off with the haul. As I mentioned last time, I am part of a Pay It Forward gifting group on Facebook. So you make an Amazon wish list and you post it, and then very nice people choose to gift you items from your wish list, as well as you gifting other people. So through that, I've gotten quite a few gifts from very generous people. So we're going to start there, and then we'll get into the very few books that I read this week. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 books I read this week. We'll explain why later, so let's get into that haul. The first book that I was generously gifted was Thrawn Treason by Timothy Zahn. It is the last book in the Thrawn trilogy in the Star Wars New Canon series. Obviously, the New Canon series isn't connected to anything. This is part of a trilogy. It's about Vice Admiral Thrawn. He is of the Cheese race. So he's blue-skinned, red-eyed. He was in Rebels, Star Wars Rebels, the TV show. He is badass. He knew Vader. He climbed up the ranks in the Empire early on in his career. I only read the first book so far in the trilogy, but I really, really enjoyed it. So I actually heard the other 2 books are even better than the first one. The first one just kind of established who Thrawn was and how he was found. Oh my gosh, the details are so fuzzy, but the Empire basically found him and took him in, and he's like super smart, calculating, and evil, so he rose very quickly in the ranks. So I am interested to see how this trilogy ends. Emperor Palpatine is right here on the cover, and I don't know where this falls as far as the Star Wars timeline. There's usually one right in the front. I'm just going to check right quick. This comes before the Rebels TV show, according to the timeline in here. Right before, Rebels comes right after this book, so that's actually interesting to know. But I really am interested in seeing, it looks like Krennic is in this, yep. So it looks like this is leading up to Rogue One as well, with Krennic's design of the Death Star, and I think that's going to be fascinating. So, thank you, gifter. This one actually wasn't a gift. This was actually a purchase to me, and it is Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the Hufflepuff Edition. I am a Hufflepuff, so I've been collecting these in both paperback and in hardcover. As you can see, the pages are all cool. They rotate. Book 1 was black, so then book 2 was yellow. So they alternate. And each of the covers have different details on them. Hufflepuff's is the maze. And I don't have any of their house editions because I'm a Hufflepuff, so I exclusively do this one. The paperbacks are in the opposite color, so the paperback of Goblet of Fire is in black. In addition to the story, there is extra information in this. This one has, well, of course, it starts off with a portrait of Helga Hufflepuff, our founder. And this one also has a map. It has a profile of Cedric Diggory, the magical paintings of Hogwarts, and a Triwizard Tournament quiz. So these are really nice. I think they're really nice collector's editions. It started off with the 20th anniversary of Philosopher's Stone. So I did order this off of Amazon UK. And surprisingly, it's still shipped overseas with Corona, so woot. It just looks really nice on the shelf too. And if you collect Harry Potter books like I do, it's a very nice edition. Back to our gift train, I also got Five Nights at Freddy's, the Silver Eyes graphic novel by Scott Cawthorn, and Claudia Schroeder and Kira Breed Risley. So the Silver Eyes is actually also a novel, and now they are making a graphic novel version. The artwork looks really simple, cartoony, And the only reason I really got it, because I don't really like when they take novels and make them into graphic novels. I don't think it works very well. Usually part of the story just gets lost in that translation, and it's just not as good. But I really like Five Nights at Freddy's, and I just kind of wanted to complete the collection. And as fans of Five Nights at Freddy's knows, that Scott Cawthon likes to hide Easter eggs in all of his media, so I figured I would give this a shot as well to see if there's anything additional hidden in these pages other than what was hidden in the main story. The Silver Eyes is about Charlie. Her dad works on the animatronics, I believe. This takes place 10 years after the murders at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. And her father's was the owner of that Freddy's location. There's a lot that happens in this series, and I don't want to spoil anything. But after I read them, I always run on to Game Theory shout out and see how, like, what he's picked up on as well. He has an amazing Five Nights at Freddy's timeline. I really love this franchise, and I love how Scott weaves the story together and just gives us little pieces at a time. And I really appreciate all the hard work Game Theory has put into building up the full timeline. And after these books comes out, he's pretty quick about coming up with a new video and how it ties in, so I will be looking for his video, because I think the graphic novel's been out for a little bit. And I did just look it up. Silver Eyes, this is Silver Eyes. The second book in this series is The Twisted Ones, and it looks like by February of next year we will have a graphic novel adaptation of that one as well. In that same vein, the next gift that I got was Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear Frights #3, 1:35 a.m. Also by Scott Cawthon, as well as Ellie Cooper and Andrea Wagner. The Fazbear Frights is a 5-book series of novellas. Each collection has 3 novellas in it. This one has... It doesn't list them on the back. But they take place in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. This, it looks like an early edition of Baby Doll, if I'm not mistaken. I really haven't read the other 2 Fazbear Frights yet, just because when I read horror, I really have to be in the mood for it. I'm flipping through right now. So the first novella is 1:35 a.m. Those familiar with the Five Nights at Freddy's lore knows that the game takes place over a series of time because you're a security guard, so I'm sure the time is significant. Room for One More is the second one, and The New Kid is the last one. And then there's like these pages at the very end after the About the Authors that is black with white text, and I'm wondering if that's like a bonus story that they threw in. All 5 of these books will have come out this year, with the next one, the 4th collection, is coming out in July 7th, the day before my birthday. So I'm definitely going to be ordering that one. The 4th one has Foxy on the cover, and the 5th one, I think, comes out in November, and I don't remember who's on the cover of that one. But obviously the covers are looking pretty creepy, and when I'm in the mood for a horror, I'll probably pick these up. I heard they're really decent, and they, again, just add more to that lore by giving you little nuggets. But this is in no way connected to the other Five Nights at Freddy's book. But they're good. The next book that was graciously gifted to me was A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallero. It is a Sherlock Holmes story. It's about Charlotte Holmes, who's the great-great-granddaughter of Sherlock Holmes. She is at a Connecticut boarding school, and she is framed for murder along with Jamie Watson, who I believe is a boy. Yes. Yep, he is. So it's like a Sherlock Holmes kind of detective story, just with teenagers, and Charlotte Holmes is a girl. It's the first book in a series. It was originally supposed to be a trilogy, and I believe there's actually 4 books that it ended up being. But I've heard really good things about it. I really like Sherlock Holmes, and I thought I'd give this one a try. The next book that I was gifted was The Queens of Geek by Jen Wild. It's really cool because it's pink hair on the cover. This book is about a girl named Charlie. She's a vlogger. She is promoting her movie at this convention. It's called SuperCon. And then she wants to show that she's over this breakup with her co-star. And then she meets this famous actress, and then I think it's like kind of like their love story, but it's also about a girl named Taylor who has a crush on her best friend Jamie. And there's a contest for this fandom she's part of, so she's gonna go to this convention to be part of it, and obviously I'm sure that's where the stories will entwine. I don't know, it just seemed like something fun, so I threw it on my wish list like really quick just to build a wish list. I don't know, I really have a hard time with contemporary YA, so I'm probably gonna end up hating this, but I'm hoping it's going to exceed expectations and be fun. And finally, the last book that I hauled this week was Cloak and Dagger by Nenia Campbell. Nenia Campbell is one of my favorite book reviewers on Goodreads, and when I found out that she was an author, I added a couple of her books to my wish list, just in order to support her. She seems to like the same kind of tropes in books that I like, so I'm hoping that she translates that into her book. The only problem I have with this is it is massive. It is self-published or indie published, and the script in the inside looks like a Microsoft Word document, and that just kind of bothers me a little bit. This is the first book in a series called the IMA. I have no idea what that means. It's about Michael Bautier. He's a young assassin working for organization of mercenaries. It's also about Christina, who's a high school senior who gets kidnapped by these people who think she's the key to the malicious code that has infected the mainframe system. Yeah. She quickly learns that there are good guys and there are bad guys. Sometimes Michael's one, sometimes he's the other. Usually he's both, and right now he's the only one who can save her. So it sounds like it's really tropey and fun. It got decent reviews on Goodreads, and like I said, I really like Nenia's reviews, and I am excited to see what she has crafted in this book. So we're going to get into what I read this week, and like I said, it was a little bit of a slow week for reading. Life update, I graduated with my master's, so now that that is done, I'm hoping I can just finish out this school year, because I am, in fact, a teacher. So we're going to finish out this school year online, and then I'm just going to read my little heart's desires. So as always, we're going to start with our ebooks, first of all being Mars Volume 2, and we also read Mars Volume 3. As always, I don't know how to display it. We're going to have a text message that you guys don't want to see. But the Mars is a manga series. It follows the bad boy of school, Ray, and the good girl, Kira, who is an artist. Books 2 and 3 deal a lot with suicides. Trigger warning on those. Katasawa is another art student, and he actually steals Kira's painting, the one that Ray likes the most, so he tries to jump off a building to kill himself, but is unsuccessful and just lands himself in the hospital. He also decides he's not going to pursue art school after that. And then his teacher labels him a early bloomer and says he peaked. Because I read them in succession, I'm not going to be able to tell which story cut off where, so I'm just going to clump these together. Also in these books, we find out Ray had a twin brother named Sei, and Sei did kill himself in front of Ray, and Ray kind of never got over it. He also competes in this 8-hour motorcycle race with his team, but gets disqualified because he raced for too long. It was really, sketched. I know that was Volume 3, because Volume 3 I ultimately rated lower, because it was, over half of it was the race, and it was kind of boring. Kira's mother will not let her go to the race to support Ray, because Kira's father was killed in a car accident, and I believe the guy that killed him was on a motorcycle or something, because her mom thinks it's reckless and just doesn't want Kira to be a part of it or near it, which is sad. But they're falling in love. Kira's kind of maturing as a character. Ray's maturing as a character. We got more, again, of his backstory. He does agree to let her draw him and paint him, so she paints him as the role of Mars, the god of war, and she wins an art contest for it. And Volume 3 does end with a woman recognizing Ray as the model in the painting. So we will see how that goes. This is a rated T, I believe. I don't think it's a T+. Maybe it is. I'll have to double check. series. It is free right now on Kindle Unlimited to download, which is why I am reading it now instead of reading as a preteen. I am sad I didn't read it when I was younger. I think I'd be a lot more into it. I mean, I'm still really liking it. I'm giving the volumes 4 stars, except for volume 3, I gave 3 stars. But I am liking the storyline and the drama, and it's only 3 volumes, and I believe it's a 15-volume series, so I'm in it for the long haul. The next book that I read on ebook, and the last ebook that I read this week, was Love Letters to the Dead, and that is by Ava Delaria. And it is a book about Laurel. Her sister recently died, and she decides to switch schools because she doesn't want anyone to know their sister died. So she switches between living with her father and her aunt, because her mother has moved across the country because she just doesn't want to deal with it anymore. The first day of school, in English class, they're given an assignment to write a letter to someone who has passed away. The English teacher does reveal that she used to teach at the other school, so knew Laurel's sister, and was hoping Laurel would write her letter to her sister. However, Laurel writes to Kurt Cobain because she's a big Nirvana fan. She continues to write letters to the dead, so this book is entirely in the format of her writing letters. She writes to Kurt Cobain, Judy Garland, the voice of Mr. Ed. She writes to Janis Joplin and a couple other people that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head right now. But sometimes the letters were super significant, like, she would listen to, Jim Morrison was another one. So she actually listened to the Doors, and then she wrote a letter to him about why it was significant and like what his music meant to her in that moment. Other times it did seem literally random and not connected, so that was kind of annoying. I only gave this book 2 stars because the concept was really cool, but then really early on, like within the first quarter of the book, Laurel meets a boy named Sky, and then suddenly that's all she wants to talk about is how much in love she is with him. And it became a book of a girl trying to get over the grief of losing a sister to a contemporary YA romance, and I was not into it. And I don't really like diary formats too much of the time. I don't think they're done like very well ever. So that kind of got annoying. Like I said, I liked the idea of like getting over grief by talking to people that were dead. I thought that was like a cool idea, but then it like fizzled out really early on. Also, Laurel never turned in her assignment because she uses this as her diary and didn't want her English teacher to see it. It was just annoying, and like nobody talked to each other, and nobody really had a personality, and I don't know, just skip it. First physical book that I read this week is like a nonfiction, and it's the Survival Guide for New Special Education Teachers. Not much to say about this one. It's really short, just about 100 pages. If you are going into the special education field, this is a really good overview. It's super quick. It skims the surface, but most impressive is the appendix and the charts and stuff that they give you in the back, especially for IEP checklists and such stuff. I thought these were really helpful. There's another textbook that's similar to this one. This is actually given to me by my school district, and it's the end of the school year, so I have to do evaluations. So to pad my evaluation for what I did outside of what was given to me by the district, I read this book. So I read it. It was good. I gave it 4 stars but it doesn't get too in depth or anything. It's a good conversation starter though. But there is a textbook of a similar name that I hated, so I thought this one was so much better. This textbook is written by Catherine Creighton Martin and Clara Hoth. It's not a textbook, it's a guidebook, but whatever. It's good. I'll tell you the reason why it took me like so long this week to get through any kind of book. And it was because I tried to read Let the Right One In by Jean Avide Lindqvist, whatever. He's Swedish. I can't pronounce it. I apologize. So this book is hailed as one of the best horror books of all time. Even the movie won a ton of awards. It is about a boy named Eli, and a girl moves in next door. Or no, it's a boy named Oscar. The girl is Ellie. Moves in next door. He discovers she's a vampire, etc., etc. So I was like, oh, this is cool because it's like evil children and vampires, and like that's fun. But what they didn't tell me about this book, and what I wasn't expecting, was the amount of pedophilia in it. And it does get a little graphic at times with the pedophilia. Like, there's a grown man that is fantasizing about putting his penis between a young boy's butt cheeks. And, like, that just, even, like, saying that out loud, like, turns my stomach. Like, I'm not into it. I hate this. This is disgusting. And that, like, it was a lot in the beginning of the book, and then it kind of petered out when Oscar met Ellie, and I was like, oh, good, we're like over that grossness. And then it came back, and I'm just not about that. So I only made it about halfway through this book before I quit it because I just couldn't take the bullying. Oscar has gets beat up at school a lot, so he has to wear a sponge, and it's very graphic about him having his penis like in the sponge. So when he wets himself, it just is absorbed by the sponge, which he calls his piss ball. I can't, guys. Like, I know this is like so highly recommended and very well loved. It just was not for me. I couldn't even appreciate the vampire and the horror aspects because the actual horror was the disgustingness of this other character. This is actually the third Swedish book I've tried to read, or translation of a Swedish novel. The others being Stieg Larsson's Girl with Dragon Tattoo and Tanya French's Into the Woods, and I just don't think they're for me. Like, the style of writing, or maybe it's just the way it translates into English, I just can't get into them. So I will not be recommending this to anybody. And finally, the only other book I got through this week was Volume 4 of the Calendar Girl series by Audrey Carlin. This is a collection of three novellas, October, November, and December of the series. This series is about a woman named Mia Saunders. Her father is put into a coma by her ex-boyfriend because he owes them $1 million. So Mia decides to become an escort to pay back her dad's loan of, whatever, $1 million. So every month she goes to a different client in order to earn the money to pay it back. So she gets a bonus if she sleeps with her clients. I think she only slept with 3 or 4 of them. However, I think I reviewed Volume 3 a couple weeks ago, so we're into our cycle of books now that you're going to start seeing sequels and follow-ups to books that I read a few weeks ago, so just be on the lookout for that as we reach the second part of our cycle here. So in the last volume, Mia's long-lost brother Max paid off the rest of her debt because he's like, yeah, my sister's not going to be an escort any longer. So even starting in October, like, she was with the love of her life, Wes. Wes is dealing with the trauma of being abducted by terrorists in Sri Lanka. And this book just wasn't as sexy as the rest of them were. The dirty talk was really awkward. It wasn't as fun as the other ones. So, like, in October, Mia gets a job, like, interviewing people for a segment on a TV show. So she interviews stay-at-home mothers, and it goes so well that they offer a full-time job. So in November, it's her having this full-time job. Wes is traveling with her, meets up with her past hookups and flings, and kind of gets over it, and then they're engaged. In December, they're, like, all happy in love, and he wants to buy a house, so they go to, like, Colorado to do another segment, and she finds her mother that abandoned her 15 years ago. And it's like, this just dragged on and on. It wasn't as fun as the rest of the series. It was kind of a disappointing ending. I mean, the actual ending was really sweet. Her and Wes end up getting married. Spoilers. But, like, overall, I'm not disappointed I read this series. I just think that the ending, like, if even in October, like, if they just made it one more month, like, if they had September with her with a different client, then things that happened in September happened in the October month, and then it was only 2 months of bullshit, that would have been better than, like, all 3 months being, like, bullshit. Like, she's already in love with, like, she's with the love of her life already. They're already engaged. They're just kind of putzing around, and I just don't think Audrey Carlin knew how to end the series. There was a Where Are They Now feature at the end of the book, which was kind of silly because everybody, like, literally everybody gets a happily ever after, even these minor characters. But like I said, overall, I'm not mad that I read this series. It was kind of like fun trash. And I gave this volume 2.5 stars because, like I said, it dragged. And maybe if I had read them as novellas and not just, like, as a whole collected volume, I would have enjoyed it more if I had, like, spaced them out. But reading them together, it was just like, what is the point of this volume? It was just a very, very long ending, basically. Kind of like how I'm dragging this out. So that was it for me this week, guys, and I'm hoping next week I will have quite a bit more for you. The books I'm reading aren't quite as long, and hopefully they're a little bit more interesting. Right now, I just started a book in the Fallen Angel series by J.R. Ward, so that's probably going to take me through the weekend to read just because they're long, and I'm not going to be honest, I don't like them as much as I like her Black Dagger Brotherhood books. I'm almost finished with another book that I'm reading in my book club with my cousin. We call it a book club. So I'll have that one for sure. I'm also this week I did read about 3 novellas, but because they're part of a big collection, I'm gonna wait until I finish the entire collection before I share that. And there's 12 total, and I'm on the 4th novella in there. So once that is done, they only take me a day or 2 to read. They're not very long at all, so I will be sharing that soon. Yeah, and I have like a VC Andrews coming up. I'm rereading some Carolyn Sparks coming up, and we'll get through it. So I hope everyone is doing well. We've had some crazy weather. We actually had snow recently, and it's May. It is super hot out today. Like, Mother Nature is just swinging hard. So I hope everyone's taking care of themselves, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.